There's only 1 week left in February, and I've only read 1 book from my 10-book February TBR. And on top of that, we are 8 weeks into 2025, and I've only read 8 books so far this year. 8 books is a lot of books, but it's a lot less than I would normally read in almost 2 months, as evidenced by the fact that I am a bit far behind on my yearly reading goal. So for the next week, my mission is simple. Read as many books from my February TBR as I can, and get back on track with my 2025 yearly reading goal. I think one of the main reasons I haven't read as many books this year is I've been getting into so many cozy hobbies. I've been coloring, I've been playing Stardew Valley, I built a book nook, I've been puzzling, I've gotten really into a lot of reality dating shows. Right now I'm watching Love is Blind season 8, and then next week I'm getting back into Survivor with season 48 coming out. I wanted my kind of theme and New Year's resolution of 2025 to be the year of cozy hobbies, and I think I've been honestly like over exceeding at that goal, so much so that reading has been a little bit on the back burner. And I still want to keep like exploring and doing lots of cozy hobbies this year, but I want to start reintroducing reading more, because I was looking at my February TBR, and honestly every single book on this TBR I'm so excited to read, and I'm kind of sad that we're coming to the end of February and I cannot possibly read all of them in the next week, but I'm excited to try and read as many as I can in the next week. And before we delve into completing my February TBR, I wanted to show you guys 2 books that I really want to read soon that are in my March Book of the Month box. The first book is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. The synopsis says, grieving the loss of her best friend, a young woman finds her life turned upside down when she meets a grumpy stranger who swears he can help her live again. And the second book is Count My Lies by Sophie Stava. This book is a mystery thriller, and the very first line of the synopsis is Sloane Caraway is a liar, which like already hooked, and she ends up lying her way into becoming the nanny of a wealthy family. And Book of the Month has very kindly sponsored today's video. I love Book of the Month. I've been using Book of the Month for several years now, and I've discovered so many reads that ended up being 5 stars that I honestly would have probably never found on my own. If you're not familiar with Book of the Month, they are an online book subscription service, and they offer their readers a curated list of books to choose from every month. So I love that they're the book experts, and I trust them to pick good books. And they have a big focus on new and emerging authors, but they'll also sometimes mix in some popular authors. I'll show you some of the books from them that I've given 5 stars. Phantasma and Heartless Hunter are 2 books that I gave 5 stars, obsessed with these books, and I had not heard of them before receiving them in my Book of the Month box. First Light Wins, now one of my favorite mystery thrillers ever. Love Theoretically is a great example of a book that I got through Book of the Month by a more popular author that I already knew and loved. You can use the code CLOVER to get your first new release hardcover from Book of the Month for just $9.99. I feel like that's an insane deal for both a new release book and a hardcover book. So a huge thank you again to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to reading my February TBR. To recap my February TBR, we have Deep End, the only book I've read so far this month on my TBR. There's Rebel Witch, the sequel to Heartless Hunter. From Lukov with Love, which I'm actually in the middle of right now, so we can finish this book today, which will be great to cross one more off our list so quickly. Spinning Silver, this book has been on my TBR so many times. I would hopefully like to read it in this video because I do not want to add it to another monthly TBR. Then we have The Gilded Cage, the sequel to The Prison Healer. The Dixon Rule, which is part of the Off Campus series. In the Weeds, the sequel to Love Light Farms. The Unmaking of June Farrow, Her Soul to Take, and Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And I always turn the books that I've already read to face the wrong way so I can know that's not one I still need to read. And then Deep End is not the only book I've read so far this month. I have read 2 other ones that are not on my TBR, which is Onyx Storm and Before I Let Go. First off, let's finish from Lukov with Love since I am in the middle of this one. I'm currently on page 505. I think I have like 25 pages left. Wow, I didn't realize I was that close to being done. And we're at like the best part in the book. If you don't know Mariana Zapata books very well, she is the queen of slow burn. When I say slow burn, like you will not have like a shred of them getting together until like the very, very end. And I love it. I always think like that would be boring, but it's amazing. I feel like the less romance I'm given, the more I want it. I'm like, oh, I just need that satisfaction of seeing them get together. It's the best feeling. And this one follows Ivan and Jasmine. They're both competitive figure skaters, and I don't know if they're like technically like enemies at the beginning, but they aren't like the biggest fans of each other. And we're just at the part in the book where things are happening in the romance, and it makes me so happy. I think slow burns are so wholesome because you're really building almost like your friendship and your love for each other before introducing the physical romance element. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up and finish this book. No, I'm blushing, I'm giggling. This part is so cute. I finished the book. I loved it. I feel like giddy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Especially just the ending was so cute. I'm gonna say 4.5, and I'm very glad I loved this book because I read 2 other Mariana Zapata books before, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which I loved, and then Wait For It, I felt okay about. That book I got a little more bored in. So after reading one book I loved and didn't love by this author, I really was like, I don't know if her books will be just hit or miss for me or what. So I feel like this one being another home run has solidified that I think I am a Mariana Zapata girl. So if you guys have any other Mariana Zapata recs, let me know. Now let's choose the next book to read. I think next I want to read Rebel Witch. Actually, last night I was like thinking about what book I want to start next in this video, and I was feeling so indecisive. So this feels a little extra of me, but I've read like the first few sentences of every book on my TBR. This is something I do a lot because I feel like I'm just a really indecisive person, and normally then I know. Like I will read the start of a book and be like, this one is grabbing me right now. This is what I'm in the mood for. And Rebel Witch is the one that caught my attention. And if you don't know, this is the sequel to Heartless Hunter, which I loved. I loved Heartless Hunter so much. Like 6 out of 5 stars. It's an enemies to lovers romantasy between a witch and a witch hunter, and book 1 specifically ended with a bang. And then I had to wait for this book to come out because it just came out this month. My new goal is to read series like as close together as possible. I'm not always good at that, but I'm trying to get better at that because I feel like you just are so much more invested when you read the books as close to back as you can. So since I read the first book not that long ago, I would love to read this book, and it will finish the series for me because it's a duology. So let's go sit somewhere and start this book. I just made it to part 2, which is page 188. I did not expect to read this much today at all, especially not in one sitting, but it's a very bingeable book. I think it's especially because I'm already so invested in the characters. 2 things I'm loving the most is number 1, Gideon and Rune's chemistry is crazy, and number 2, things are so complicated both in the romance and fantasy. I have no idea how everything is gonna ideally be like a happily ever after by the end of the book, which is great to not know what's coming next. And I think I'm gonna stop reading here because I have some plans with friends soon, and then it will be the weekend. Today is Friday, and the last day of February is next Friday. I guess technically like 8 days that we're doing this video, but close enough to 1 week. So weekend montage in 3, 2, 1. Happy Monday! I'm currently on page 429, almost done. Definitely getting to the like intense climax of the story where I don't know what they're gonna do to save everybody. Let's finish this book and then I'll tell you all my thoughts. Luca, say hi. Hello. I finished the book. I think I'm gonna say 4.25 stars. I feel like it just wasn't as good as the first book, mostly because I feel like there were a lot of like twists in this book that I did kind of guess beforehand. I don't know if that's gonna be the experience for everybody, but I'm obsessed with Gideon and Rune. And something I also thought was really cool that we do explore in book 1, but explore even more in this book, is that the fantasy plot is very, I don't want to say like morally gray, but like not everything is black and white, which I really like. I feel like in a lot of fantasy books you have one person or side of the war that is evil, the villain, and then the other side is like good, doing everything for righteous reasons. emotions, and I like that in this duology it's a little more complicated. It's just not black and white. Like there are goods and bads on both sides. Complex, which I think is really cool. And I would highly recommend this series. I feel like I don't read a ton of books with witches in them, but every time I do, I love it. You read 2 Rachel Griffin books which have witches, this duology about witches, so if anyone has any other witchy recs, I kind of want to go down like a witchy rabbit hole. I feel like they're just so cool, like the magic system, very atmospheric. And that's another book on the TBR complete. Also, we just voted to have this book be our March pick in my Fable book club. As always, my book club is completely free to join, and it's always linked in the description if you want to yap about books together. Anyway, time to pick our next read, and I know what book I want to pick. Oh no. Just gonna fix you. Okay, the next book is gonna be Spinning Silver. I've been avoiding this book for a while, like not really intentionally, and I don't really know why, because it should be very much my taste. It's fantasy, kind of a fairy tale retelling because it's inspired by Rumpelstiltskin. I think I'm intimidated by it because it's long. It doesn't look like it would be crazy long, but the audiobook is 18 hours. I feel like that's insane. That is so long. So every time I'm like, do I really want to be reading a book for like 18 hours? And now might be a bad time to pick it because I am trying to read as many books as possible before the weekend, so we kind of need speed, and this book is not giving us speed. But I feel like I cannot let another monthly TBR go by where I skip this book. I need to read it. It's inspired by Rumpelstiltskin, and I don't know anything about Rumpelstiltskin. So I think I'm gonna read a little summary on Rumpelstiltskin, so hopefully I can get some of the references in this book. And then I wanna go on a walk, loving walking and audiobooking. Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, I see how some of the synopsis of this book does line up with the story of Rumpelstiltskin. Happy Tuesday. I'm just having a little sandwich lunch, and in the book, I'm on page 97. This book is so different from what I thought it was gonna be. So far we have 3 POVs. They're all in first POV, and the author does not tell you when she's switching point of views. It's like a little annoying. It's not that hard to tell when you're switching characters just because the characters are quite different, but you do have to like really pay attention. And sometimes when I re-pick up the book, I'm like, wait, what character's head are we in? And then the tone of the writing is also really interesting. It's kind of like a little cold, detached, kind of impersonal. Like even though you're in first POV, you really don't get much emotion or internal monologue from the characters. It's a lot more like straightforward and to the point of what they're literally doing. I feel a little mixed on that. The con of that to me is I don't feel as invested in the characters, but what is kind of cool about it is that style really fits the tone of the world. The world that they live in is very like harsh. Everyone is doing what they have to do to survive. Everyone is looking out for themselves. I feel like the characters don't really have room to be emotional. So I do think the kind of impersonal writing style really sets the tone of the world. I read someone describe this book as almost like a folklore story being recounted than a very like character-driven narrative, and I think that's a really accurate description. Happy Wednesday. We only have today and then Thursday and Friday left until the end of February. That is not much time, and I'm not as far along in Spinning Silver as I would like to be. A little bit scared by how much reading I need to do because I would really like to read at least one more book after Spinning Silver. I've been listening a ton to the audiobook. I really like the narrator's voice. I feel like her voice just sounds so much like a fantasy character, so it feels like very immersive. But in the audiobook, I'm almost done with chapter 15, about page 260. So a little over halfway, and ideally I would like to finish this book today, so then for our last 2 days of this challenge, I can read another book. But 200 pages to read today is kind of a lot, and it's already 12:53. And then, even more time constraint, this evening is the premiere of Survivor season 48, and I've got a great watch party with friends, so I'm very excited to watch with everyone. everyone, but that means that I will not have much time to read this evening either. The episode airs at 7 p.m. so I'll probably have to stop reading around 6 if I want to eat dinner and head to my friend's house. So I'm gonna set a 5-hour timer because that's how long we have until 6 p.m. and I'm gonna try and not stop reading for the next 5 hours. And yeah, I think I'm gonna keep listening to the audiobook. I have some other things I'd like to do, like I need to finish getting ready. The apartment's a little messy, gonna do some cleaning, might go for a walk. So let's audiobook and get stuff done. I just realized I have not really told you guys the plot of the book. I wanna read the back so I make sure I stick to the synopsis that you know going in, because I feel like so much has changed. The way the plot started, I feel like it's moved in such a different direction. Basically, the plot follows Miriam, and her parents are moneylenders, but her dad is really bad at collecting the debts. He's basically just too nice to like go out and actually enforce the money that people owe him. So Miriam takes it into her own hands. She's a little more ruthless. And then she gets a reputation for turning silver into gold, which is quite cool and very much like the Rumpelstiltskin inspo in this story. And then it says, when an ill-advised boast draws the attention of the king of Sterrick, grim fey creatures who see more ice than flesh, Miriam's fate and that of 2 kingdoms will be forever altered. I feel like this book is really interesting. It kind of reminds me of a book that you would read in high school that you would like write essays about and analyze. I mean that in a good way. Like, I feel like there's a lot to unpack and a lot of different like scenes and stories that you can kind of interpret different ways. Some big themes are greed and paying your debts, and then also a big theme that I didn't really expect is that in this world, women really can't aspire to much besides marriage. And I know that's also true for so much of history in our world. And society doesn't really see the women as having much value outside of their ability to marry well. And so we see how that impacts our 3 main female characters in different ways, but they also use different skills and traits they have, like their cunning or their strength, which is something that society doesn't really expect of women. So I think that's really cool to see in these characters. So yeah, it's like a very interesting, like very layered book. I feel like a lot of commentary on society while still being like wrapped up in this kind of folklore, fairy tale, fantasy book. Less than an hour left and I'm on page 384, which means I have 82 pages left. So progress is being made. Happy Thursday. I finished Spinning Silver. I have been thinking long and hard about my rating for this book, and I feel like it's so hard for me to give a final rating because I have kind of conflicting thoughts on it. On the one hand, I loved the story. It was so fascinating. I really haven't read a book quite like this before. I do feel like I kind of read the same books in different fonts like over and over, like romance and romantasy, so I enjoyed like reading something quite different for myself, but I don't know that this is like a writing style I'd gravitate towards a ton. I think I'm gonna say 3.5 stars. And then we have just the rest of today and tomorrow to ideally finish one more book. And I actually started another book this morning. I posted a TikTok and a YouTube short having you guys vote on what the last book I should read in this video is. So if you don't follow me on TikTok, you should, because I'm trying to post a lot more there. And the book that won is The Gilded Cage. It's a sequel to The Prison Healer. I'm very excited this book has won, but it is thick. It is 429 pages. So I do fear that means I have to read 200 plus pages today and tomorrow to finish it, which is a lot. And like I said, I started this book this morning. I'm currently on page 38. I feel like we've jumped right into the action, which I'm excited about because The Prison Healer moved kind of slow for me. I think I gave it like 4.25 stars, mostly because it had a crazy ending. So I'm hoping this book moves a little faster. And I've also heard that this one has a crazy ending as well. So we'll see if that's true. But it basically follows Kiva, and she in book 1 is both a prisoner and the prison's healer. And it had a great fun family aspect with friends that she made in the prison. And then I feel like I can't really talk much about the plot of this book because like I said, where we are now, a lot of it stems from the big twists at the end of book 1. But yeah, I'm excited to read this book. I'm feeling today, like honestly, my brain feels like mush. I feel like a combo of that I've just done a lot of reading the past week, and Spinning Silver was definitely not
easy, light, mindless read. It definitely took a lot of like focus. So to be honest, I'm feeling like a little tired of reading today, even though I'm still enjoying the beginning of this book so far. And I don't know, I feel like I've just felt like generally like light reading slump vibes so far this year. I've still read a decent amount of books in January and February, but I've read a lot less than I would typically read in a 2-month period. And I still don't know like the answers to get out of a reading slump, but I feel like what's worked for me the best in the past is reading a 5-star read. You obviously can't always predict what's gonna be a 5-star read, but I feel like if I am in a slump and I just force myself to pick up a book and then I end up loving it, then that makes me excited to like chase that 5-star feeling again and pick up another book. And obviously don't know what I'll end up rating this book, but I feel like it has 5-star potential just because of how The Prison Healer ended. Like if this book is as crazy and as good as the end of Prison Healer, then it could be 5 stars and could hopefully scare away my reading slump feelings.
Happy Friday and happy February 28th, the last day of February and the last day of this video. Hopefully, assuming I finish this book today. I'm on page 270, so I have about 160 pages still, and it is 4 p.m. I know it's gonna be tough to finish it. I'm still hopeful, but there is a chance it doesn't happen, so we'll see. I am really enjoying the book though. Right now, Kiva is definitely in a tough spot with the politics and the fantasy world. She's in a very tough position, and this book is kind of reminding me of Rebel Witch and Heartless Hunter. Not really in the plot, but like I was saying with Rebel Witch, it kind of has like goods and bads to both sides on the politics, and this book kind of has that dynamic too, which I'm really enjoying. And then the romance is really cute. It's really adorable. My only tiny complaint with the romance is Jaren is the love interest, and he's like a tiny bit bland to me. I feel bad saying that because he's like so sweet, but I wish he had like a little more like oomph to his personality, but I do like him and they are adorable together. Can we also take a moment to appreciate how cool this cover is? I finished The Gilded Cage, however, I did finish it today, March 1st, so technically didn't finish it in February, but I read like 95% of it in February, so close enough. And the ending did live up to the hype. The ending went pretty crazy. There was a lot of reveals where I was like, oh my gosh, did not see coming. And then like the literal very end, on the actual last page, we get a pretty big cliffhanger, and I was like, no way, what? Like, I did not see this for where book 3 is going to start. Still a little in shock at that ending. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? So very excited to read book 3. For this book, I still am gonna say 4.25 stars. I think same rating as book 1. I feel like 4 stars is my general like feelings in the beginning and middle, and then the ending. Gotta give that extra quarter star for the great twists. And that leaves us with a total of 5 out of 10 books on my February TBR read, so could be better, but pretty good. And let's do a little recap and a mini February wrap up. I started off the month finishing Onyx Storm, which I loved. I gave it 5 stars. The first few chapters I was very confused and it was rough, but then after like chapter 7, I was hooked, I was good, I knew what was happening. Obsessed. Can't believe we're gonna have to wait probably quite a while until the next book comes out. I'm on the edge of my seat. And then I read Deep End, which was on my February TBR, and I gave this book, I think 4 stars. It was hard for me to come up with a final rating because there's so much that I loved and then like one big thing that I really disliked. I always adore Ali Hazelwood's writing. She's one of my favorite romance authors. And I like that this one was like a little bit different for her because it's a college sports romance. And I love Scarlett and I love Lucas and I loved their chemistry, but there was a certain character named Penelope and I honestly like hated her entire plotline. It was just so frustrating and annoying to me, so that's where I was like, what do I rate it? I guess 4 stars because I did mostly like it. And then I read another book, not on my February TBR, which is Before I Let Go by Kenny Ryan. Not going to tell you any of my thoughts on this one because I read it for a different reading vlog that will, I'm pretty sure, be my next video. So excited soon for you guys to see my thoughts on this book. And then we have the 4 books I read in this video. Rebel Witch, which you guys know I loved and gave 4.25 stars. Spinning Silver, a little mixed on, 3.5 stars. From Lukov with Love, which was a big love for me, 4.5 stars. And I do
want to start reading more Mariana Zapata. And then The Gilded Cage, which I just finished with 4.25 star rating. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm still kind of planning out what content I want to make the rest of March and April and May. Like, I've been thinking about doing something a little different and maybe making a video on the different like cozy hobbies I've been getting into. I know that's not book related, but it's still like hobby related, so kind of relates to reading. So I don't know if that's like something you guys would want to see, something different for me, or if you're like, I really just want to watch book videos, like that's totally okay too. So let me know your thoughts on that idea. Oh, and my reading goal, where is that now? I just checked and I'm still 3 books behind on my reading goal. So we did make some good progress, but even though I read 4 books in this video, I think I was reading a little slower than I needed to be reading to really catch up on my goal. I'm curious like how many books I'll end up reading by the end of the year. I don't feel like beholden to my 90 book 2025 reading goal. I think it's just cool to have a goal and something to work towards. But I've definitely been, I don't know, just kind of like in a different reading mood this year. I don't really quite know why. I've just been reading when I want to and not forcing it, which I think has been good. But there's also, when I look at my bookshelves, like so many books where I'm like, wait, no, I actually want to binge all these books. So I've just felt that like confliction in my reading mood. So we'll see where the year takes me and how many books I end up reading. With that, I'll see you guys in my next video, which should include my review of Before I Let Go. Bye!